The views expressed during this program are not necessarily those of the staff, management, ownership, or advertisers of KZSB AM 1290 or the Santa Barbara News Press.
It's the Andy Cadwell Radio Show. Andy is a government watchdog, business and traditional values advocate, and on this show, he interviews leaders and scholars on a variety of local, state, and national issues.
I'd like to welcome you back to the show. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome back an old friend, and I'm also one of his customers. Steve Labard is a owner of Labard's Computer Center. He is a veteran. He's somebody that has been serving and donating to our community in various capacities for years by way of leadership and outright donations. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. So you are running for the assembly seat from basically this assembly district covers from Lompoc to Paso. What caused you to jump in the race? What are your goals?
Well, what caused me to jump in a race is I've just going through different processes. I was really involved with revitalizing Old Town Orchid, and we had to do some zoning changes there. And then I had some property. You know, I built my own house years ago. And today, I think with all the regulations, it would almost be impossible to do that. But then I had a piece of commercial property I tried to develop. And, you know, after fighting with trying to get through that process for years, I added it up the other day. I spent over $190,000 just to get to the process where I'd have a land use permit. And then after that, we went into the 2008 recession. So the process drug on so long that it put me into a different economy. And I think that basically what California is doing is it's robbing all of our natural talents because people just give up and walk away, or they move to other states, or there's a lot of people out there with great ideas, but once they go to try to go through the process to build something, they just get shut down. One door after another slams in front of them, and it's just like you can't ever get anything done in this state.
Well, one of the things, I think one of the most shocking stories, and you got national press, including several stories in the Weekly Standard, was your experience trying to get a veterans, flag and plaque thing built in Orchid. And it's absolutely unbelievable that Caltrans ruled that displaying a flag, an American flag, is an impermissible act of public expression.
Right. And that simply started out as a project with, I was president of the Old Town Orchid Revitalization Group, and we wanted to, we're beautifying the whole town, and one of the things we wanted to do was a gateway project. Well, we wanted to put the American flag up there and put a nice pole up there, and then I got the idea of, well, let's make it a veterans memorial. I mean, there are so many veterans and Air Force personnel that get on the road right out there to go out to Vandenberg to work, so it just made a lot of sense to do that there. But the first thing that happened was that Caltrans told me that I couldn't put the American flag up there. So I fought with them on that, and then I finally found the 1953 state law that said the American flag could be in the state right away. So I shoved that down their throat, and they finally relented. And I said, okay, let me build a new sidewalk so the flag will be in the center where the memorial is going to be. And they said, no, you got to put that flag right in the sidewalk. So I said, you know what, the hell with you. It's going in the sidewalk, but it's going up. So I got the flag up, got it flying, and then I proceeded to try to get the memorial built. And that took on another whole set of issues. State Senator Tony Strickland introduced a bill to build the memorial. I went up to Sacramento, testified before the state Senate, 3 different committees, and then I went before the state senators. They voted 39-0 to pass this bill that would basically allow our revitalization group to build the memorial under Caltrans direction. So then what happened from there was Caltrans came in and said, well, you don't need that bill anymore. Get rid of it. We're going to sell that property to the county for $510 or $500. It's going to be a nominal fee because it's a small piece of property. So they convinced Tony Strickland to back off the bill, which he did. So then after a couple of months went by, I went back to them and said, well, what the heck's going on? Why isn't this moving forward? And they said, well, we need $10,000 from your revitalization group to process this. And I said, well, we don't have 10 grand. So I came up with another idea. I reintroduced the project as Transportation Art. And I said, listen, if you guys have down in Chicano Park in San Diego, you have murals of Fidel Castro down there. If you can allow that, you certainly can allow me to do a Veterans Memorial as Transportation Art. So they agreed to that, and I went through that whole process with them. I spent about a year and a half going through that with them, and there again, they said they were going to transfer the property to the county, and they ended up really tricking the county. They told the county they were going to sell them the property for $1,500, and then they said, oh, well, we just need to have $1,500 so we can figure out how much we're going to sell you the property for. Then they told the county that there was going to take them 2 months to do an appraisal. It ended up taking them 3 years to do the appraisal.
They're killing you through the bureaucracy.
Exactly.
Now that bill that floated through the Senate, 39 to 0, did that one die in the Assembly?
Well,
or did he pull it? Because I read something about a bill that died in the Assembly. Is it because he pulled it?
Because he pulled it, right. Because Caltrans told them that there was no need for the bill.
All right.
That they were in total agreement with what we were doing.
So how much of what you're running for is to be up there to be able to testify and push for change? Like, for instance, at Caltrans, the regulatory process and the like. Is that one of your main goals?
Certainly it is. It's one of the first things I want to do is change that state law that says the flag can be in the sidewalk and say it can be in all gateway monument projects throughout California. Because right now, if you say you're in Guadalupe and you want to build get a Caltrans encroachment permit to do a gateway monument, they'll approve it every time. But the minute you introduce the American flag into that project, they'll deny the project. Did anybody carry this message of this travail to Jerry Brown? And
did Brown know about this? I know he's read about it. He can't help it. But I'd like to know if anybody ever confronted the governor. I would be mortally embarrassed.
You know, I copied him on every letter I ever sent up to Caltrans. I tried to get him involved as much as I possibly could.
It's just embarrassing. Especially, you're a vet. You're honoring vets. It's embarrassing.
I actually believe, because of the Ninth Circuit Court, that when I reintroduce this bill, they're going to come out. It's going to end up back in court. It's going to have to go all the way to the Supreme Court to get resolved, because they think that the American flag is a form of political speech. That's what they flat out.
That's what a flag is.
That's what
That is what a flag is. It represents a country. It represents what we stand for. It represents who we are.
Exactly.
And I mean, this as a veteran. Why in the heck did you raise an American flag? Why did they do it at Iwo Jima or Guadalcanal or whatever? When we take back territory or win an area, why do we raise the flag? Well, it's a symbol of us.
Right.
It is a public expression of what we hold dear and what we've accomplished.
One of the first times we raised the American flag was over in Tripoli when we were fighting the same Muslim terrorists we're fighting today. Well, I don't think a lot of people realize that. They were capturing our ships and holding people ransom and turning them into slaves.
Wasn't it one of our first acts of war?
Right. At that time, we were paying those Muslims over there 10% of our national budget so they would leave our ships alone. And I don't, if people realize that we were fighting those terrorists back from day one.
They were pirates back then.
This is just a continuation of that same exact. It was the same mentality. When they asked them why they felt they had the right to do that, they said, because we're superior to you.
Okay. Do you have a website?
Yes, it's www.steve35.com.
All right, our guest, Steve Labard, is candidate for the 35th District Assembly. This runs from Lompoc to Paso. You're listening to the Andy Caldwell Show. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
The Andy Caldwell Show is sponsored in part by CoLab, the Coalition of Labor, Agriculture, and Business.
Making you smarter one day at a time. This is the Andy Caldwell Show.
I'd like to welcome you back to the show. My guest, Steve Labard, owner of Labard's Computer Center, Labard's Vineyard. He's a candidate for assembly, and he wants to make a difference up in Sacramento as he's made a difference in the community in which we live. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Andy.
Well, you know, one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about is there's this issue in California. California can, because of our weather and our climate, because of the desirability to live here, they don't think they have to be nice to business. And secondly, when they have Hollywood in the south, in the Silicon Valley in the north, they believe that both those business centers are bulletproof. And then they've got ag, which they kind of treat almost like as a stepchild, but that's always been a money-making machine for them. There's a part of them that feels like, why do they need to change?
Well, I think that one of the biggest reasons for me for them to need to change is that there's a lot of small business people here. I've been a small business person here for 37 years. And it's, my kids grew up and they all left. I mean, my son stayed the closest. He's a winemaker down in San Ynez. And I have one daughter that lives over in Austin, Texas, and one down in Huntington Beach. And it's like there's nothing here for the kids job-wise. They want to get out and get into the bigger cities where there's a lot more opportunity, everything else. And I think there could be a heck of a lot more opportunity here if we just let it happen. But then I got to go back to all of the regulations and the stifling of businesses here, and how, if you could have the greatest idea in the world, but it's not going to play here the way we're regulated here.
Well, that story coming out of Carpinteria with Carl's Jr., about how long it takes to get just a fast food restaurant through the permitting process here. They can't even get through the permitting process here versus they already have built it and opened it in Texas.
Sure,
it's a matter of months versus a matter of years. And one of the guys I talked to is an international businessman in Carpinteria. He said that you could tell the thriving economy can be measured by how long it takes to get something opened. And here, as you well know, I mean, look at the stuff you've been involved with, putting up a Veterans Memorial flag and plaque thing in Orchid. It's years.
Yeah, it's
and that's
totally
nonprofit,
Right, and that's something everybody was for.
Right.
Yeah, there was nobody.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane.
What kind of response are you getting out there?
I'm getting a lot of good feedback. A lot of people like what I stand for, and my name's been out there for a long time. I've been working with the Orchid Area Seniors in Service to build a new community center out there in Old Town Orchid lately.
I want to thank you. Now, we should inform the audience, you and Debbie donated the land.
Correct.
That's a big thing to do. That's usually it's the cost of the land that's killing people besides the cost of process.
Right. And I feel fortunate to have been able to be in a position to be able to do it. We had some property down by the creek, and because of the zoning and everything else, it worked out perfect for what they wanted to do with it. So everything worked out great. And they're going through the process right now.
Well, one thing we should mention to people, in case they don't remember how this works, there's about four people running for the assembly, and 2 will emerge in June to run off in November.
Correct.
And so the bottom line here, folks, you get to pick one person, but the top 2 vote getters, and we have an open primary. So it doesn't matter if you're an independent or a Republican or a Democrat. All 4 of those names are going to be on that ballot in June, and or by absentee. Over 50% of the people are voting absentee now. So in a little more than a week or so, those absentee ballots are going out, and you will pick one name. The top 2 will go on to November.
Correct. So I hope to be in the top 2, so I can then that'll give me all the way to November to get out. And I'm doing a self-funded campaign. I'm not taking one penny from anybody, Because if I get into office, I don't want to look outside my door and see a long line of favors waiting outside my door. So I want to be able to get right to work and try to make some positive changes in California and introduce some bills to get that done.
Now, I'll tell you the other thing. We should mention the fact that, you're a computer engineer kind of guy, started your own business back in 1979. I was a customer of yours when I was at Union Sugar. One of the things that you could bring to, besides veterans issues, small business issues, another thing you could bring to Sacramento is an expertise in high-tech computer world, because they have literally squandered millions of dollars buying computer programs and systems that don't work. And this is always an anomaly to me, since they rely so much on Silicon Valley for so many things in California, that they couldn't find somebody from Silicon Valley to help them figure out how to move California into a technological age.
Yeah, they never cease to amaze you, do they? When I started my business, I'm basically doing my campaigning the same way I started my business. I walked door to door to businesses, and I asked them if they had anything that I could fix free on their machines just to build their trust. And that's how I started my business. I walked from basically every business in Paso Robles all the way down to Longpoint.
Wow.
And I'm doing the same thing today to get this business, or to try to get the job to represent the people in the 35th District.
Well, that's amazing. That's an amazing business. How did you just think of that yourself?
Yeah.
Did they trust you? Did they think, how do I trust this guy with my computer?
Back then I was doing the office products, because I got into the business before computers were even commonplace in a workplace. It was IBM Selectric typewriters.
Oh, okay.
So I worked for IBM for 5 years, and then I went out on my own. So that was the idea I had, was I knew I had to build people's trust, and I felt that was the best way to do it, just to offer them a free service. And a lot of them insisted on paying me, and some didn't, and I built a heck of a business doing it that way.
That's amazing. And then you just self-taught on computers as they came around?
Right. I self-taught. I was reading everything that was coming out on them. Back in those days when the PCs first came out, it was all you had to read the magazines, because things were changing so quickly. So you had to read PC Magazine to get a hold of what was going on. And I had people with computer science degrees coming to me trying to figure out how to make Novell work on their new networking system they had in their offices.
All right, let's give out your website again. And plus, is there a phone number they can reach you at?
Sure. My website is steve35.com, and my phone number is 805-714-1165.
Well, I'll tell people, Colab doesn't endorse. We want either you or Jordan. The one kid I don't even think serious, and I think Dawn is also just a candidate they threw in there so that the lefty Dems would be represented. So I wish you and Jordan the best. I hope that you are the number 1 and 2 candidates, and that people will recognize that you actually have something to offer.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, Steve Labard, you're listening to the Andy Caldwell Show. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.